Hi everyone, this is Old Emo Dave. Welcome back to Get Your Deck Out, the Final Fantasy episode. We are here after a couple of episodes with new people and people who we didn't know, back with the old faithful. Scott, 11 Zelda MTG, welcome back to the fold, my friend.
You might not have known them, but I've been losing to Francis, Dave, and Josh for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just staples.
If the Josh episode hasn't come out yet, that's a
Oh yeah,
spoiler for the next one.
yeah. Spoiler on that one. Who knows? You might already have seen it. But we've just felt this is that time of the time of a constructed player's calendar where I don't know. Would you say motivation to play is a little low because we see some sparkly new toys on the horizon?
It can be. It depends how you look at it, right? Where some people look at it and go, "Oh, there's no point playing this format because it's all going to change in a couple of weeks." Normally, with the older formats like your legacies, your moderns, that sort of thing, they don't change anywhere near as much. But I mean, Final Fantasy looks like a powerful set. There's some things in here that people are pretty excited about, like cards pre-ordering for $100 or whatever. But
$100. That is crazy. Yeah, lots of different takes there's been on the cards. I think obviously instant call out is the bonus sheet looks nuts if you end up picking these packs up for what they call quote unquote booster fun. But this is get your deck out. Saying about getting your booster packs out, we are actually gonna take a look at everything that is in our arsenal, what we're playing right now, and that's across the period. Scott and I, we both look at standard all the way to legacy, quite directly. A little bit more experts in some than the other. But we take Scott specifically has put together a list of cards. We've got 18 here that we're going to take a look at and kind of like see where they slot in. This is kind of like the day one slot in Scott, right? We haven't seen meta evolvement. This is like where we can put things if you just had them available to order on card market right now.
yeah, it's not necessarily a case of these are all slam dunks or it's necessarily everything from the set. It's just a list that we've pulled together where they're interesting. There's something about them, or there's a lot of hubbub about them in the Magic community where other people would want us to talk about them. But yeah, nothing standing out necessarily.
We'll call those out too, because I think the main thing about this list, and I make this list pretty much every set, where I think to myself, um, I every one of these cards can fit back into the bulk box and and stay with me until I know where they go. Outside of this, and this is not financial advice, but this is the way I play it. If something is if something is of a highly reasonable financial value to you, and it's going to sell in the first 2 weeks, you let that baby go out into the wild. If you're not going to play it, you can always pick it up later. There is going to be a massive hype at the beginning of any new set, and this set is probably without question an example of that.
Yeah, it's very, very hyped. Like the last Universes Beyond set we saw that hit formats was Lord of the Rings, and obviously that was very, very hyped. Orcish Bowmasters was pre-ordering for a lot of money. The One Ring, not so much, and that ended up breaking a couple of formats pretty much clean in half.
Yeah,
I
totally.
don't think we've got a One Ring in this set, but the overall power level does seem pretty high, and it seems like the cards are at least going to be relevant.
Absolutely. But as a reminder on that point, if you open the special guest slot, Fatal Push, it's not worth a tenner. Fatal Push is a 50p card. Go get a play set, sell that one, and like parlay up into a deck's worth of cards rather than a couple of fancy pieces for your trade binder.
Yeah, wait until people have started opening collector boosters ad infinitum because the set will be printed into the ground.
It will be
And
incredible.
yeah, just wait for the prices to drop down. If you particularly want the fatal pushes, that's fine. They're gonna be probably at their highest price on release weekend, and then probably what 3-4 years after the fact. Like people thought Lord of the Rings was going to meaningfully appreciate in value, and then they did the holiday printing and they crushed a lot of the values of the cards into the ground, and everyone can pick a lot of them up.
Yeah.
It's the fancy versions, it's the surge foils and the things like that that are still expensive now. So
Exactly. So we're going to take this. We're going to take this exercise through mana value. Obviously, there's lands. We'll stick them somewhere in the middle. But we got 2 cards in the 1-drop slot, Scott. Usually, it's in the 1-drop shot slot. We need to see absolute gas. Take us away. Which one with your favor of the 2 we've got?
My favorite of the 2 is actually Fire Magic. I know that's a boring answer of, oh, look at this dinky little uncommon that most people probably just gleam over when they're looking through the set. But Fire Magic is red for an instant, and it's tiered, so you choose one of the costs. So it's red, deal 1 to each creature, red and 2, deal 2 to each creature, or red and 5, deal 3 to each creature. We're probably not doing that last one very often. But the thing that made this stand out to me is it's an instant. Like, we've played End the Festivities for a while. We've played Pyroclasm, we've played Witch's Vengeance, Fiery Cannonade, take your pick. Red instant, deal 1 to each creature is actually really, really good.
I didn't actually pick that up when looking at it. It was going to be my first question about the overcosting. Are you like valuing choices worth a mana? But you actually also the instant, so that the pauper card springs to mind, right? The
Fiery Cannonade, yeah. And Breath Weapon.
yeah, breath weapon. End step, clear all the pixies off, or end step, clear all the monks off. This feels like a cheeky little sideboard card. Guessing that's why you popped this one on the list.
Yeah, I mean, in Modern, we've seen Titan play Fire Spell. Everyone's playing Pyroclasm. The second point is relevant. So's instant speed. So I'm not sure this is necessarily going to supplant all of these effects that we see, but it's worth noticing if you're doing a pre-release this weekend. Pull these out, keep them separate, put them in your bulk box. Don't just chuck them in the pile that ends up in the shoebox and then you forget about it and they get all musty in the cupboard.
Yeah, keep a playset or 2 of these is probably a good shout for the longevity. In the other 1-drop slot is Cecil the Dark Knight. A flip card or a flippable a flip over card. This for a current deck, or were you thinking more speculative to be a different a new format or archetype coming out of nowhere?
It's more that just black for a 2/3 death touch is a lot of beef on a 1-drop, where it will block and kill anything. It has death touch, assuming no indestructible, blah blah blah. But when it attacks, you do lose life when it deals damage. That happens on blocking as well, but it does flip really easily. So flipping it, sure, it becomes a 4/4 lifelinker that when it attacks, your other attackers gain indestructible. That's more going to be, oh, I've managed to flip this. I've got a couple of other guys down. I can just slam in. But I'm more interested about it as just a black 2/3 death touch for 1 mana. We've seen Stalactite Stalker saw a little bit of play before MH3. We've seen Nethergoyf out of MH3. In Standard, there's not that many black 1-drops that actually see any play, despite there being a lot of black decks. That slot is normally your Duresses, your Dreams of Steel and Oils, and then you start getting into the real juice when you're hitting Deep Cavern Bat, Preacher of the Schism, that sort of thing. And this card is pre-ordering quite cheaply. Again, this is not financial advice. Please don't take it as that. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this see play as maybe a 2 or 3 of in a couple of different decks, because just by virtue of being a 1-drop, it can slot in a lot of places.
Yeah, so the legendary makes constructed a little tad difficult, doesn't it? But it is a different creature as well. And this flip, that's something that also often goes overlooked with these type of cards. And the dice to cut down clause still applies, but remember we've got cut down for like 2 months. So
yeah, and also the best bit of cut down is when it's trading up into a 3-drop, right? That's why we're not playing any 3-mana 2/2s with some trinkety effect very often. You see things like like Loran maybe, which is like 3 mana 2/1, but that has an enter the battlefield effect. So you're always trading up on cards if they turn around and cut down it. But if they cut down this, you're mana neutral, you're kind of fine with it. And then you untap, play the Deep Cavern Bat, take another card out of their hand, and then all of a sudden they've only got 4 cards in hand, and you've got a Deep Cavern Bat to start playing around with, and all your cards still in hand. So I'm not saying it's going to be absurd. I just think it's interesting to know when you see 5 points of stats and a transform ability that doesn't cost mana on a 1-drop.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like I'd even lead into this is the kind of thing that Pioneer needs at the start of the game. Like a consistent tempo play. There's been sort of fringe mono black type decks going on there. So this is another option for beefing up that mid range. But yeah, I agreed on the price as well. That like if these settle down in a week or two, less than £3, I think this would be a solid pickup or keep for the long term. That's what we put in the 1-drop slot. I had no honorable mentions other than that. I think there is the little chocobo with the landfall. I think that's going to be an absolute. Someone will build a deck around that, but that's all it is. The card on itself. A is going to be cheap, but also B doesn't really do much. It's going to enable a deck rather than be the reason why a deck is good. Did you have anything?
If we see a landfall deck where you're looking at cards like that, maybe a couple of cards we're mentioning later on, where it's like the old style Ataka Red decks where you've got some landfall triggers, you're making use of cards like Evolving Worlds, even in an aggro deck, to get multiple triggers. It could see some action. Again, the burden of proof on 1-drops is quite low.
Yeah.
Where if you've got a 1-drop that can become a 3/3 or a 4/4, let's say, like look at Marauding Mako, where the burden of proof on that is very low. It's a 1-mana 1/1. Yes, it does cycle, but it's pretty easy to trigger that by discarding cards, and hopefully you play a land every turn. So it is
Yeah.
easy to trigger.
Absolutely. So we'll move into the twos. The obvious two for the best mention is Sata Wayfinder ×2. In Town Greeter has entered the chat, and that's going to have some interesting enablers across all formats now, knowing that you can have a much more consistency in that mill 4, get a land slot. And if it's a town, we'll see towns later. You gain 2 life as well,
Yeah,
and this
that's
is
like
town greeter.
This is like gaining life off the cave that you play with spelunking, where that's not going to come up all that much. But yeah, I just wanted to call out Sata Wayfinder, my beloved. It's a very good card. If anyone's ever played against me in Modern, I love playing a deck that loses to Rest in Peace. But this creature enters, mills, and then you pick the land up. So it does actually trigger Insidious Roots.
It does.
If is Insidious Roots only a creature? Am I misremembering? Or is that
Card leaves the battlefield. Card leaves the graveyard.
No, it's creature. I thought it was. Damn. Well, that's that brew in the bin.
It's Dredge's Insight will gain you a life. So
but there you go. Like that's not nothing. And
Ketchumos draw you a card if you hit all of that.
Yeah, it's more that it's a Sata Wayfinder, and milling 4 cards is a lot. We saw a green black graveyard deck at the Pro Tour that was doing very, very well. This sort of card is it's a grease card. It mills some cards, it gives you your 3rd land, it smooths everything out. Milling 4 cards is a lot. Look at Malevolent Rumble.
Yes.
Like it's a lot of cards. And I like a Sata Wayfinder. I wanted to call it out.
They flirted with this effect in the last few sets. So it was mill 4, mill 3. We saw the fantastic blue one from
Flaggy Archaeologist, yeah.
Flaggy Archaeologist. And that's just a great example of like the fringeness of mill 3, mill 4, seeing that extra Thunder Trap Trainer. Again, seeing 4, but the difference of actually milling them to feed a graveyard also means you get like both strategies filled up. Interesting, cool card. Really massive fact that it's a common. We have to give the pauper nod there. That for dredge and pauper, this is a massive enabler as well.
If you're an exhume enjoyer, you might like Town Greeter, that sort of effect. I know those decks are playing a version of this effect. I know there's a couple of different versions of this that exist where you kind of have your pick of the bunch. It's another one to put in that list. It's the kind of card where you're not going to be unhappy, just keeping hold of 4 of them, just ready in case you're playing some graveyardy green deck.
And moving this to another 4 of to keep, because there's no way that having this much choice is not going to be good. Battle menu.
Yeah, instant speed, 2/2. Buff for creature we're probably not using very much, like +0/+4. Destroy creature with power 4 or greater. That's historically a very good effect. Gain 4 life again, we're probably not doing all that much, but I mean, I can see it being relevant. It's pretty much main boardable, question mark. If you're a white deck that doesn't have any huge synergy or anything like that, or if you care about tokens, which a lot of white decks do in standard, then yeah, fine. Like, it triggers your Caretaker's Talent, you can sacrifice it to Phantom Port if you get desperate. But just having destroy target creature power 4 or greater, just having that ability with loads of other functionality attached to it, where this card is never dead. I could see it.
Great art as well. Like, you gotta love the across the board of this set. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but this is just a cool throwback to the battle menu of fighting as a group. And
the art and flavor on all of it is just phenomenal, to be honest. And this is speaking as someone who, I played Final Fantasy VII growing up. I played Final Fantasy X, and I've played the MMO one, which is 14, I believe, a little bit. I'm more of a RuneScape gamer. Lambast me in the comments for that all you like. I don't care. I like my medieval point and click game.
Sorry, they're too busy AFK in a lobby.
Yeah, you got a bank stand somewhere. But yeah, so battle menu, it's a lot of optionality on one card.
Yeah, and like that is what you like to see out of your 2 drops in stand, like specifically standard as well. We talk about how it's burgeoning towards modern's flowchart of, is it a 1 drop? No. Then does it do lots of things for 2 mana? And we're getting there, and this is the slot in this set. And I think before we look at some of our other interesting cards, we may as well mention the card that actually didn't make our list, but we felt she's gonna want to have an option. They're gonna want to have to be mentioned anyway, and that's Tifa Lockhart. This card currently, unsurprisingly, I probably quite correctly pre-ordering at a reasonable rate, but has been the most talked about thing in preview season for its quote unquote turn 2 kills that could be enabled across the formats. But Scott, we're not feeling that hot about what Tifa's going to bring.
I mean, it's a 2-drop that you need to untap with and then do a bunch of other stuff with to make work, right? Where I think people were always going to talk about the Tifa card because Booba and such, where people have got this obsession with Tifa as a character, so they're always going to be more interested in the card and they're going to talk about it more. But so 2 mana 1/2 trample, not a great start. Whenever a land enters, double Tifa's power until end of turn. So with a fetch land, it's a 4/2 on attacks on turn 3. That's not great. We do have Fabled Passage in standard, thanks to Bloomburrow, so we do have some fetch lands available. If you Monstrous Rage this and then Fabled Passage, fair enough, that's 16 power, and it does have trample. If someone just goes, oh, okay, Anoint with Affliction, or Go for the Throat, something like that, or Into the Flood Moors it, your down cards and it hasn't really done all that much, and then you've had to play Fable Passage in an aggro deck, it's hard to enable. But when a card says double on it, you kind of need to take notice, because doubling is good when you do it multiple times.
Yeah, you know what your opponent's plan is once this card hits, hits turn two. So I'm gonna just hold it out. We will at some point get domed to the face in the first week
Oh
whilst
yeah,
playing our.
I'll lose to the card. I still won't think it's that good.
Yeah, it's a bit like the ley line of resonance effect, right? It's just there's gonna be the monstrous rage into Fable Passage involving wild stuff,
Yeah,
but
does everyone remember the red ley line that people were saying needed to be pre-banned in standard before the set was even released, and it made minor movements and now has died off the face of the earth? Meh.
yeah, yeah, just destroy enchantment, GG, isn't it? It's like there's
Not even
nothing
that. It's just not even that consistent or that good. Like, you don't need it. Just monstrous rage on a Heartfire hero is good enough.
I'll torch the tower your creature. Great. So yeah, Tifa again and again. We've said a lot of non-financial advice, but I'm just gonna say, if I get an
Tell.
alt art Tifa and someone offers me $30, I'll see you in a couple of months when I want these back for my niche deck. I will. But yeah, no big bomb, and similar to the Dark Confidant, which again we haven't mentioned, but I think the card is good, a good card. Will it
It's
make
not playable.
Will it, yeah. Will we see it in decks? Probably. Will we still be talking about it in 6 months? I don't think so.
I think the only world we see Dark Confidant is in like a pixie deck where all you're doing is playing ones and twos, but you it's not going to see play in like this Jund style deck that people wish for when Unholy Annex exists, because
Yeah,
it's just significantly better. It draws a card the turn it comes down, and if you happen to have a demon laying around, of which there's millions in the format, and it makes one itself, so it's also kind of a mana sink, then you're draining your opponent for two. And Dark Confidant is probably just worse than Caustic Bronco at this point in time.
yeah,
I could see both of them. I could see that being like your value engine, where you've got maybe some form of incidental life gain, whether that's like a deep cavern bat cracking in for one every turn just to help try and keep you healthy. But Hopeless Nightmare's out of a drug, and people want to play a bunch of one drops. I mean, we've kind of been forced to do it by certain decisions from play design, where it feels like we all need to play Corey Steelcutter and all the ones, or Up the Beanstalk and a bunch of things that cheat on mana to go big, like mid
at the
ranges.
beanstalk with a bunch of threes that actually say they're sixes on the card. That's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
yes, absolutely. And thinking about everything that we have around and how things are gonna still potentially synergize. One of the red cards in the 2 mana slot that I do have a little bit of a worry about. That's self destruct. That is for me.
Why are you worried?
I because I feel like I can get flinged. This is supposed to be a PG, so but fling fucked feels like the actual correct term. Yeah, like that does this does look like it could be a problem with all the aggro prowess decks we have around.
I don't know if problem necessarily is the right term. Again, I'm a little cooler in it than some people, but it's messed up with Screaming Nemesis. I'll say that.
So explain how the interactions will work. Yeah.
Well, so with a Screaming Nemesis, you self-destruct your Screaming Nemesis, so bolt something, probably your opponent, and then deals that damage to itself as well, which then gets redirected because of Screaming Nemesis's ability. So doing this with Boris Reckoner style effects like Screaming Nemesis is it's 2 mana, sack your Screaming Nemesis, deal 6, split up into 2/3s, and you get the Screaming Nemesis effect. So if you hit your opponent with it, they can't gain life anymore. To be honest, I'd probably rather just have a Screaming Nemesis.
Yeah.
It opens up some combo-y stuff with a Heartfire hero, but then again, if you've got a 6/6 Heartfire hero, you've probably won the game already. And using this as like a form of mono red protection if your opponent points, say, an Anoint with Affliction at your Heartfire hero to try and exile it, and you self destruct in response, that's a lot of damage. But you need to look at the fail case. People wanted to cut Monstrous Rage from Gruul aggro mono red for a while. Certain people had been cutting it because it was such a bad top deck when you didn't have any creatures on board, and this is significantly worse. It is 2 mana. So a lot of people losing their mind about this one in particular, but I think it'll be fine at best. It's a small upgrade on Fling that gets fizzled by a removal spell, because if you target your own thing and they kill it in response, this card does nothing.
That is true. It could be problematic in the right spot, but I think building decks with this card is not the idea.
Yeah, I think you just happen to play like 2 of them, right? Where sometimes it does really good things, sometimes it's dead. It's the kind of card that makes me want Faithless Looting style effects or ways to filter cards out of my hand.
Yeah,
Where
I'd want Tears of Lightbringer in my red deck.
yeah, exactly. Where you're like, okay, I'm going to play a Terza, I'm going to discard this because it's crap in this spot and get some new cards. Hopefully, I draw Torch the Tower or something like that, where you can filter this away, but then it has its moments where you just thunder into your opponent for like 18 damage on turn 3. That's great when that happens, but I think a lot of those games you're winning anyway.
Yeah.
But it could have a spot. I'm not going to sit here and say that I expect this to see absolutely zero play. I'm not going to do that with any of these cards. I'm doing a Magic podcast. I need to cover my ass somewhere.
This is one of those reasons for this style of chat, though, right? Is this is a card to be aware of. Whether you're going to need to sideboard around it or play around it, we do not know yet. But it's certainly going to enable things that are within people's reach. They're either, as you mentioned, the Heartfire Hero Screaming Nemesis. Your aggro player already has these. They are already
Goes well with Tifa.
It goes well with Tifa, so let's be keeping an eye. To keep something like this kind of card in check, the last 2 cards in the 2 mana slot do feel like that. They do feel like good utility cards for the color, and also answer a lot of problems. Starting with Poison the Waters, so we've got essentially a Dreams of Steel and Oil effect on this card with a choose one of all creatures get -1/-1 till the end of turn. Modality again is obviously helping here, and we are going to have a lot of effects like the -1/-1 starting to rotate out now. Any other particular reason for this card, Scott?
It just does quite a lot again for 2 mana, where you have the optionality. Sometimes the all creatures get -1/-1 is going to be really good. Sometimes dressing your opponent taking an artifact creature is really good. Notably, it doesn't exile the card like Dreams of Steel and Oil does, which is actually a surprisingly large part of why that card's been seeing a lot of play, where some decks, that's more so in Modern, where you can Dreams of Steel and Oil and take your opponent's Flage and then they can't recast it. But it just has an impact on the board or the hand for 2 mana. I'm not expecting it to be blowing anything in half, but a 1 or 2 of in a sideboard here and there, I would not be surprised.
And that's probably the place where we'll see PC and Suplex as well. Yeah, it's kind of like a Braid's cousin. I'd say is a good
Yeah.
good place to put this. It has, in some way it's better, in some way it's worse. Like,
Yeah, it's literally a braid, but both of the modes exile instead of destroy, but it's a sorcery. So you lose a lot by it being a sorcery. It's just something to be aware of. People thought Obliterating Bolt wasn't good enough. I know the 4th point of damage on that is relevant, but it's seen more play than people thought, and having these cards around is good. It's good to have these sort of valves in the format where, especially when it exiles an artifact, we could have been suplexing the One Ring all this time. And yeah, so basically what Frodo needed was Brock Lesnar, not Gandalf.
That's fair. That's fair. It needed modern. It needed suplexing. That's just a
Yeah,
great
a
analogy.
swift German suplex. Exile the
Oh,
One Ring, easy.
we're gonna be seeing the power crap version of this in a couple of years, but it'll be Kurt Angle for one. Uh,
Yeah, when we get the WWE universes beyond set.
oh, please give me Rhea Ripley. I'll take that one all day. Uh,
Hey, we've already got Tifa. Calm down now.
that concludes our two drops as far as the look at. Notable, no major rays coming to the top. We've talked about this set, and the big hype has been like Final Fantasy's positioning, la di da di da. We could talk about licensing all day. There's also the whispers that this should have been a modern set, or at least a commander based set. What I will say is I don't feel like we overly power craft. But I do feel like we've got a lot of interest in design.
Yeah, that is something they've done really, really well. I think is just made like appealing cards that aren't necessarily bananas powerful. Like cards like Orcish Bowmasters. I know some people were calling for it to be banned in modern. I think those people were wrong even back then when it was seeing a lot of play compared to now when it's not seeing anywhere near as much. But it's cards like the Cloud, for example, where people look at it and they think, "Oh my god, it's Stoneforge Mystic." The best part of Stoneforge Mystic was always cheating on mana and putting in a Couch Complete or a Battle Skull or whatever. Oh, double triggers again. It's that double word or triggers an additional time that people find really really appealing. Like the Cloud is good. I'm not. I didn't put it on the list because I think what there is to be said about it has already been said by people who are a lot more qualified than I am. But if it makes a deck, then cool. If people are happy playing with Cloud, then cool.
You know,
And I like that.
simply put, Hammer Time in whichever place you want to play the format is currently not a playable deck. There'll be there'll be people screaming in the comments at me at that statement, um, but I will happily be trying a Pioneer Hammer Time deck in early access on 5th of June. For those you, if this has already come out, you'll be seeing the videos on the channel, and yeah, other things I will be trying it is going to be some of the new lands. So see this cycle brings us the town lands. Interesting new way of doing things. They've dropped an adventure onto lands. Just I feel a bit confused when I see it, but I'm kind of rolling with it. The instant thing when we talk about where this is gonna, well, how this is gonna be effective with standard is just you can just bounce things back to your hand, right? So like these lands, you don't have to hold them to do their adventure for a while. You could just use them early game, bounce them later.
Yeah, nurturing Pixie is a hell of a drug, as I said earlier, where you can play it as a land, you can use it for a bit, you can pick it up, use the adventure, play it again as a land, pick it up again. So the ones that I'm interested in are the ones that actually have a reasonably costed adventure.
So like that would be like why Midgar City of Mako is the one to choose on this list. It's like nearly there as a card on its own. So and also lots of the bounce decks pretty much play black, like in some kind of variation, even though the actual pixie itself is white. Like this is probably going to have the best thing, especially when you're playing things like your Grim Baubles, right? Like so,
Yeah.
Grim Baubles a great piece of removal. It's going to be really great as well. We're cut down, departing soon. It's going to be even better here because you're going to be able to do that in 1 or 2, and then it could be a sacrifice fodder quite cheaply to this town as well at a later date.
Yeah, the two that I'm most interested in picking up are the red one and the black one, so Lindblom and Midgar, where they've both got 3 mana adventures, and then obviously they enter tapped. That is a real cost, especially in pixie style decks where
Yes.
you're playing nothing but 1 drop. So it is a real cost. So you need to be getting some juice out of the adventure and some reason to play them. They are towns. I'm not sure that's super relevant. I mean, obviously, if you pick up the black one with the Sata Wayfinder in your black green graveyardy deck, then you gain some life. But
It'll be potentially relevant for this short standard window, and also limited, isn't it? But there is another town, which is obviously our other land to talk about, which I think it's fair. To be honest, seeing all this pre-ordering at like at Card Market Low at $10, I'm actually shocked. I thought this would be like overly hyped because this is what Mana Confluence at home. It's the first attempt at an almost an alchemy card, isn't it? With it enters tapped unless it's the first, second, or third turn of the game, and got a lot of upside as well for the fact that obviously, and like with Mana Confluence, where like you'll basically beholden to pay in life to use this land. Later on in the game or when unneeded, you can tap it for colorless. I think this is, I can probably channel my inner Scotch here and say this land is fine and it's okay, and we're gonna have a couple, but I'm gonna not necessarily feel like it's gonna break the game.
Yeah, so it's a Thran portal that doesn't make me upset to register, right?
Yeah.
Where standard is currently revolving around a lot of very efficient cards, and you need your colors available. Entering tapped on turn 4, it's like the fast lands, right? Where most of the time that just means if it's your fourth or later land, it's going to enter tapped. That's fine on things like Conceal Courtyard, Inspiring Vantage, that sort of thing. I think they probably changed the wording because that was confusing to some people, where it's tapped unless you have more than 2 other lands. So when I play this as my third land, is it tapped or is it that can get confusing. Just designating it of first, second, third turn of the game, as soon as you pass that point, you just know, yep, my starting towns are tapped. That's fine. But yeah, it's reasonable. Mana Confluence saw a lot of play in its time. This is probably better than Mana Confluence,
I,
but
I think the big thing there has to be said from the context of what we're looking at is not necessarily now, but you're gonna need to have these for specifically standard for the foreseeable future. Because
yeah, I mean, Mana Confluence sees a lot of play in Pioneer as well, like in
well,
3+ color decks,
I can
and
I can
that's going to be in that.
I can state straight away, like a pet love of mine, Boggles would like eat this up because Boggles is always sort of like wanting to like borderline on being potentially banned. So like, but then you get
And
stuck.
you want you want the red for like Hammer Hand, which I know is normally you're just finding it off light pause, but sometimes you draw it, sometimes you want to
Yeah,
cast it.
you want black for Kaya's ghost form, like, and those
Yeah,
sometimes are the moments where you would have won the game if I could have cast it, and this is going to enable it. So I think again, like we talked earlier about it being a great printing, I think this is perfectly in its spot. Um, yeah, remembering 4 lots of fast lands go. No, sorry, 5 lots of fast lands go, and all of the pain lands go. Now, this is all pending any further reprints in Edge of Eternities, where I think there's already been a suggestion that people have seen that there's like a specific land slot in that set.
make
Uh,
the mana worse, make people suffer.
but I think this is a good shift on the mana. Gives you options, but comes with a slight cost. But like this a lot. Also, I don't believe there's an alternative art as well. Is this actually one of those ones where it's actually
I don't know. There's like 58 printings
no,
of
yeah.
every legend in the set. I don't know.
This is the thing. There is no alternative version to this where I'm like, wow, you would have thought they would have milked the heck out of it, but nope. It is just this lovely classic. Could be somewhere in Eldraine art that it comes with. That's all we got for the lands because outside of that, it's just a bunch of piece of piss uncommon stuff, which you see with every push out. But the value always has been, and always will be in the 3-drop slot. Um, there's a couple of obvious ones that we've got added that have been the hype cards, specifically the £100 pre-ordering cards. So not coming straight there. Where would you like to start, Scott,
We'll,
in our 3-drop list?
we'll make people wait till last for Vivi and Sephiroth. We'll tease them. Oh, should we start with Traveling Chocobo? Another one of
Yes.
my beloveds, Courser of Crufix.
Yes, it is that, isn't it? And it's kind of like, as well as what we talked about earlier with the landfall deck potential. If a deck's going to exist, this card will be in it. Um,
Yeah, they've made a non-named character a mythic for a reason, and I think this card is good. It dies to a stiff breeze. It's a 3-mana 3/2. Corsair being a 4 toughness card was very relevant, but playing lands and casting birds from the top of your library, and then it's that word again, it's doubling the triggers of lands or birds entering the battlefield. So first thing I want to call out, this both casts Nardu and double Springheart Nantuko triggers, which is hilarious to think about when you think of the Nardu deck and realize this probably gets nowhere near that, but it is fun.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think. Obviously, we'll take some of our notable bird heroes of time past, um, and be jamming this into some kind of bird tribal along the way in our Commander Friends world. But
I
yeah,
know a lot of commander players have been wanting a Bant bird commander that isn't Derevi for a while, and there's the legendary Chocobo in the set that's Bant. This card obviously goes in it. I just do just want to call out as well. Tornos the Toymaker is an unplayable 5-drop rare that is standard legal, and whenever you cast a bird or a beast spell, you copy it. So you make a token copy of it. With all of these birds, there might be something there. It's highly doubtful that a 5-drop will get anywhere near standard when Shoulder is unplayable at 4 mana. But if you want a little, I know I don't play Commander, but if you want a little Commander spice, put a Tornos the Toymaker in that deck.
I
It
bet you
does a
could.
lot.
I bet you could do the classic prof thing of like, make a Tornus the toy maker precon, based on half the cards in this set. Maybe there's a later video for some of our other colleagues involved. Commander is definitely not my wheelhouse. I'll be laughed out of the comments. Yeah, the Chocobo is great. Obviously, the golden one is going to be the search card. I know our store is putting up a bounty for that on pre-release. Like,
It's like 1 in every 500 collector boosters, you get one of the purple ones or something. Again, there's too many variants at the minute. But speaking as someone who does do commentary on the Old Emo Dave YouTube channel with yourself very frequently, and some of our local friends also get in on that, it is a nightmare keeping track of every variant of every card. Someone played a War Leader's Call against me, and people didn't know what it was because it was the alternate art.
yeah, there's five versions of Sephiroth. That's crazy. Like, and that's version of Sephiroth. There's so many Sephiroths. But yeah, no, the Chocobo is great. A great little break, and another little sort of like great, great card, the Queen Bran or Brahine,
Rana, I think. I
Rana.
don't know.
Um, what are you liking
I
so
didn't
much
play
about
the game.
this? You liking the wizard token? You liking the prowess?
So 3 mana 2/1 prowess. Again, it dies to a stiff breeze, and the body is unimpressive. But it's basically the card I chose to talk about these wizard tokens, the 0/1s that ping your opponent when you cast a non-creature spell. Those are very, very powerful.
Yes.
A 0/1 that just sits there pinging your opponent, and you can make a lot of them. There's a lot of cards in the set that make these. You get 3 of them. You cast an opt and bolt your opponent. That is meaningful. Where, yeah, one of them laying around, you're not really going to get that much out of it. As soon as you get more than one, like 2 of them, you burst lightning your opponent, you deal 4. You Boris Charm them, you deal 6. Like, that's a meaningful amount of damage. In competitive constructed, you only have 20 life. That's a lot of damage out of things that are made mostly as an afterthought. The issue with Rabblemaster is that the goblins it makes attack and they die in combat. This one, obviously, it's a 2/1 for 3 mana with prowess, so not nothing. If you monstrous rage it, it's what, a 6/3 is still probably gonna die. You've made a wizard. Maybe you play this alongside Monastery Swift Spear, that sort of thing, where when you're getting down and dirty and the game's going long, having a couple of these things just sitting around is going to be really valuable.
Yeah, and it's gonna synergize. We'll come on to like another thing with this card will get potentially buffed is we've got Lightning Army of One who for those pings, if Lightning of Army of One got in during combat, second main creating a bunch of those having a bunch of those tokens on the board, their damage is going to double also, which is
Yeah.
another consideration when you think about like the Mardu token making cards that from the previous set. Like even think about the Dalkoven encampments, like like well, that will come out in combat, I guess. That's actually not a really good example. But you think, like you say, about
Well, it is a good example though, because Lightning has First Strike. So First Strike, Trample, and Lifelink. That's a pretty good combination of keywords. 3-drop, 3/2, dice to cut down, blah blah. Yeah, fine. If you connect with this, you're probably winning the game. Where you hit them, say they have nothing on board, you've Oblivion ringed their blocker, and then you hit them with lightning. You hit them for 3, you gain 3, and then you burst lightning them with one of the wizards laying around. So the burst lightning's doubled, so that's 4 damage. The wizard damage is doubled, so that's another 2 damage. That's 9.
you play a singular creature. That's another 2. Like
Yeah, like
Well-
there's a lot of text on this card that is good. And yeah, I'm not in the business of recommending cards that you need to play and then you need to untap with. What I will say is that in Modern, we've got Arena of Glory.
oh
So
yeah,
Arena of Glory, this thing, hit them, bolt them for 6. That's pretty hot.
sack your board to your
Goblin
Goblin
Bombardment.
Bombardment.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it's all 2 damage. Yeah, like yeah, no,
Yeah, screw Fable and Boros Energy. I want to play Lightning.
I'm definitely hot on Lightning being a card that's gonna have impact. You're right in like leaning into Modern and just sort of like talk about about effects which will go over formats, but then sometimes effects which will come back across formats, but still not necessarily that impactful. We've got Quinia Q Gourmet. Now this is the one where, for all intensive purposes, may as well be Chatterfang from a point of view of the effect, but just because it's it's not a squirrel and it's not got its other attacks. This being despite being pretty powerful, doubling any tokens you make, it just kind of just misses the mark, but in a good way, I guess, to be sort of standard playable, but not be something that you're going to see across multiple formats.
Yeah, it's something to take notice of, that anything that can just fire tokens out over and over and over again is worth mentioning.
Because you sack a frog, you put a 1/1 counter on Quinia, so terrible walking ballista wins ahoy at some point with that one. So talking about walking ballista wins, Ariev Gainsborough, I think is definitely
Aerith, you Philistine.
Ariev Gainsborough is going to be another one of those toolbox pieces in your Agatha Soul Cauldron modern decks. You can
Yeah, you Soul Cauldron a walking blister on this thing, you just win. There's no need for the old school. I can't believe I'm saying old school with this deck because it still feels recent to me. But the walking blister Heliod combos, you Soul Cauldron a walking blister onto Aerith, they die with no interaction. So you put the counter on it, you remove the counter to activate the walking blister ability on Aerith, you deal the damage to them, you gain life because Aerith has got lifelink, and then when you gain life, you put the 1/1 counter on it. So that by itself is just good enough. And that's the kind of thing that I'm interested at with stuff like Town Greeter, the Sata Wayfinder, where I just happen to put a walking blister into my graveyard and oh no, you're dead. It's powerful. It's a it's a 2-card combo that requires a piece in the graveyard, but we've seen Baskin Brood Scale decks play Walking Blister and Agatha Soul Cauldron because they can. They have the room for it. They're playing Malevolent Rumble, that sort of thing. Being able to play an Aerith and potentially just kill your opponent is worth noticing. I'm not sure, again, that it's busted. It's a 3-mana 2/2. If you don't have the combo, the card is literally dead. Ironic with Aerith, but it it's just worth noticing when things like this pop up where you can just happen into a combo.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to enable it. There's a deck that does something, and this gives another way to enable it um, from a different angle, and that's where these cards become interesting. They don't necessarily become game changers on their own; they just become big bit pieces of other decks. Before we hit those two big haymakers, to discuss them in depth, because I guess that's where everyone's going to fast forward to anyway, because they are the cards I talked about. I added to this list Joshua's Phoenix Dominant. Obviously, Mr. Jeskai Oculus myself can't ignore this card. But I saw the card, got excited by the card, still not ignoring the card, but I think I'm kind of correctly dropping my stock back on it to a point where I'm still letting it be on the list because I think this is a very powerful card, standalone. But the effect, well, the fact you can even when it enters, you can discard draw. On the exile, you get your life link from the 4/4 flyer, and if in a grindy matchup, you're bringing basically back anything you want. I even would potentially think that there's a shout for this to be in Boris Energy, because
Nope.
no, you still think no grindier matchups.
Tersalite Shatter is a better card, and that's not close. So no.
Is it on the basis that ultimately, because I'm kind of like trying to figure out like when is Saga Part 3 gonna trigger? That's gonna be at least what, turn 8, because you need to get to 5 mana. You need
You pay 5 mana and activate this thing, and then someone fatal pushes it.
yeah.
Then you lose. Congratulations. Good day.
I have a lot of stock for this card being around in standard and being playable. I don't have a lot of stock for this card to be a 13 quid pre-ordered card. Um, but still, like everything about it, I think the wizard tag is also gonna help it be relevant in standard. But yeah, was in my top 5 that I wanted from the set. It's probably now drifted back down. Well, we have 21 cards on this list, so I'm going to call it my 21st card. That is making what we've got here. Did you just
We'll
discount?
say that Dave has been sneaking cards into this list. If you remember when we started, it was 19.
Exactly, but obviously want my own little impact because but I'm looking at this and going like, should I add that card? Should I add this card? But yeah, Joshua, I think I needed a shout because ultimately, it feels like it should be an Oculus card. It might end up one day being an Oculus card, but for now, you change that Exile Joshua into like either maybe through like costing 3 to exile or something like that, or disc, or it flips when you've got 10 cards in your graveyard.
Yeah, something like that. Something where it doesn't cost 5 mana. Like 5 mana is a ton. And yeah, 3 mana, 3/4. That's pretty sizable. That's Sentinel, the name of the city stats. Sentinel does something when it enters. So does Joshua. Fair enough. Discard up to 2, draw that many. So it's like Fable Chapter 2.
Yeah.
Is that really where we want to be? When you consider Fable of the Mirrorbreaker and this card, look at the difference between them, right? Where, yeah, fair enough, the first side of Fable it's essentially a 2/2 that makes a treasure when it attacks.
Yeah.
That has synergies all across the board. This discards cards, fine. So does Fable. Fable flips for free, and the backside of Fable is, I would argue, a lot more impactful than a 4/4 flying lifelink that deals 2 to each opponent twice. So it's not even any target. If this was any target, fine, fair enough. That would be something that can count for it. Or you return some amount of creatures to the battlefield, and then it flips back into Joshua, where you then get the rummage effect again. I'd be amazed if you weren't empty-handed by that point. You've had 5 mana for multiple turns. And even if you do get to flip it, what happens if someone just destroy evils it?
Well, you lose all advantage.
Yeah, I'll crush your dreams, Dave. Don't worry, mate.
That's fair. That's fair. So my the dreams. Well, from what I read and I see across social media, the dreams of every CDH player everywhere is going to shortly be crushed by VV Orniter's existence. Uh, we'll start there with wrapping up the three drops because you've seen the theory crafts, you've seen the opening hand storm suggestions. How high is this on the true storm scale? So are we looking at have we seen are we seeing a problem, or are we seeing a pain in the ass?
I think this card is fine. I don't understand the people saying it's going to break modern. I think you're in la la land if you think it's going to break modern. The burden of proof for that has been proven to be basically a Nardu shaped box and, or say, Underworld Breach. This isn't any of that. It's 3 mana on the front side. So you're paying 3 mana for this, you tap in 3 lands, you're Desperate Ritual and Manamorphosing it into it, whatever, fine. You activate it only during your turn and only once. And yeah, fair enough. If it's reasonably big, you can add a lot of mana and use that to continue going up the chain. It deals 1 damage to each opponent. It does something. It's basically like one of the wizard tokens, but significantly larger. Fair enough. Not to be sniffed at. It gets bigger. Fine. But if you play this and say go, and your opponent goes, oh, okay, untap, play some things, cut down this.
Yeah.
Like you need to untap with it, and then you can do some stuff. The people talking about like I've seen all manner of wild theory about this in modern in particular, but other formats as well. Is this really better than Raoul? Is this better than even
No.
Baral?
No.
Where Baral on your storm turns would give you what, 15 mana? Something like that?
I
Are you casting 15 spells and then needing to activate this to keep going?
like I'm gonna theory craft the your best storm players, your devout storm players might chuck one in the wishboard on a Magic Online league or two to just see how it goes, and are never gonna cast it, and that's gonna be it. This
On
is
TCG Player, this thing is apparently $90. That is madness.
so. I'm just gonna call this out. Obviously, thank you to Firestorm Games. I open a box on pre-release day. If anyone wants to give me $90 for the VV I pull, you can come. I'll come bring it to your house. I'll come deliver. I'll come deliver it straight to you, because as long as you have that money to go for this piece of cardboard, I genuinely believe is going to be like a £10 mythic in less than a month, then it's been nice doing business with you. Um, you c-
The only place I can see this in modern is along with like Corey Steelcutter type stuff. So you play this, you cast Mox Amber, you like use the Mox Amber, cast another spell, or let's say it's a Lava Dart, you then flashback Lava Dart from your graveyard, you've dealt, what's that, 5 damage, you zero this thing, and then say cast a Flame of Anor, because it is a wizard. Fine, but if I'm playing Mox Ambers and triggering my Corey Steel Cutters and stuff like that, I want to be playing stuff like Tamio, not a 3-drop that if my deck isn't working the way I intend it to, it does nothing. And like you want cards that are good when the game is broken. If there are cards that only work when your deck is doing exactly what you want it to, then I'm not super interested in them. Vivi with Manamorphose, Mishra's Bauble, Mox Opal, Mox Amber, that sort of thing. And then you make this like a 5-power attacker and then attack your opponent. Fine. But 3 mana's a lot.
Still not gonna
It's
I'm still not gonna discount the amount of shorts that we'll see in the next week or so, where people do the opening commander turn with Vivi and like draw 20 cards, deal 11 damage to the table, all that kind of one turn stuff. We're not talking commander here, everyone. We're just talking is it worth getting your decks out and slotting Vivi into it? Our resounding answer is not really. And go and cash in, go and improve your mana bases, go and get a few more staples. If some crazy person in your LGS will buy it off you for $90 a card on pre-release weekend.
putting this under a Soul Cauldron's also kind of cool, but
isn't most things isn't almost anything under a Soul Cauldron kind of cool?
it's not $90 good, man. Like,
I think we'll go off the real man's market, then that's card market, and it's €40 on card market, which
that's still too much.
that's still too much, but I can understand it from a pre-order pricing perspective. The other big boy from the set obviously is Sephiroth, Fable Soldier. Like we saw this card very very early on, to kind of lead into the equivalent of pricing. This one's like coming in at nearly €28. Sephiroth for me. So actually, I just say with both of these cards, okay. I feel, and also even leaning into Joshua, none of us really know if this originally was it originally on the Modern Horizons Lord of the Rings expected place to fall. So in other words, a straight to modern set, but specifically,
Few of the 3 drops were. I'll put it that way.
yeah, but the 3 drops are the giveaway. Would be the giveaway to possibly they were, and they took a Sophia nerf. Joshua, for example, might have just been a triggered, easy to do in modern. I think I think Vivi might have just been cheaper. Might have just been blue and a red. And Sephiroth,
If it was blue and a red, then it would be very good.
yeah, and then Sephiroth, as he needed to be triggered 4 times to flip it, before you get his backside. Its backside is incredible. I think you have to kind of give note to that.
Sephiroth does indeed have an incredible backside.
Absolutely does. And the fact that you get a blood artist trigger, like you think about like even if standard like the pixie deck stuff now, you can do something cute like flip this, get the trigger, then go and pick it up and replay it, and get a couple of triggers stacked. Like there has been.
I think I'd rather have a 5-mana 5/5 flyer that draws multiple cards. Like it's a blood artist and an enabler. We haven't seen that before.
Yeah, I think this card. A lot of people say, "Oh, like this is gonna be really hard to flip. I don't know if you should be playing this." To be honest,
It's not that hard to flip.
but to be honest, if you took the legendary tag off and you just gave us the ETB, like it's still pretty good. Like it's still,
Yeah, it's another one where I'm not expecting it to break a format in half. It's just notable that 3-mana 3/3, so its stats are on the lower end nowadays, which is mad to say, but that's the reality. It has an effect when it enters the battlefield. It has an attack trigger. Those draw you cards. That's a good thing to be doing in Magic. It's some people's favorite thing to be doing. It's a blood artist, not a Zulaport Cutthroat. It is whenever another creature dies. It's not you control. That is something that I feel like some people have missed.
yeah,
Where you play this, you sack off one of the plethora of tokens that every card in Magic makes nowadays, where you have a 2-drop that makes 3 pieces of cardboard for no apparent reason, and we all have to bring token boxes that take up half the bottom of our bag. You sacrifice some random thing, you get a card. People are playing Fountain Port. Yeah, fair enough. It's a land. The burden of cost on that is lower. But 3-mana 3/3, if you manage to trigger this 4 times, then you get a 5/5 flyer that you can sack a bunch of stuff to. Insidious Root style decks, raise the piss style decks, that sort of thing. We've seen these aristocraty style decks popping up here and there. It's another one of them. We've got Vengeful Blood Witch, which is also a drain effect whenever another thing dies. Aristocrat decks are traditionally quite good. It's just worth noting.
Absolutely. A worth noting 3-drop. I think, again, just one of those great examples of, I can't tell you where you're going to play it, but you're going to probably try and play it. But if, in all honesty, you pull one of these on pre-release, especially in
So
yeah, especially in the crazy anime arts. I believe this is also one of the mythics that are with the treatment where it's the Roman numerals behind it. So to be from what game it's from, yeah, you sell instantly, and you
yeah, it's good. It's not $55 on TCG Play. These cards are insane to me, but I understand people are into Final Fantasy, but Jesus, like, calm down.
calm down, bruv. It's only cardboard.
It's only a game where you have to be mad.
Um, and I guess most people would think that in a constructed format Magic podcast, we would just probably stop you because nothing really matters past 3 mana.
But we got some fun ones to talk about.
But there is a couple. I think no, we only have one notable in the 4-drop slot here, and I feel a little bit like I didn't do enough homework to question why we haven't put any more in. But Noctis, Prince of Lucis, um, like this is gonna be pretty busted if you build the right deck around it.
So shout out Dave Woodland for pointing this card out to me. The deck sounds horrible, but it's funny. So you have Noctis on board, so you can cast artifacts from your graveyard by paying 3 life. And if you cast a spell this way, it enters with a finality counter on it. So you have an Eighth Flux Reservoir, so you gain life whenever you cast spells. You have Noctis, so you can cast it repeatedly. And you have some form of Chalice of the Void, Vexing Bauble, that sort of thing. So any 0 that you cast is countered. You pay 3 life, you cast a Mox Opal, you trigger your Eighth Flux Reservoir, and the Mox Opal's countered. It never gets the finality counter on it,
Because
so
it
it goes
never
back to the
enters.
graveyard.
That's
And
crazy.
then after 3 of them, you start going up on life from the Eighth Flux Reservoir instead of down, and then you gain a million life and shoot your opponent with the Eighth Flux Reservoir. This deck does not sound good, but I'll be damned if it doesn't sound funny.
I'll see you on Doomwake stream on Thursday with some kind of Noctis brew where hopefully I at least get to do it once. Yeah.
Well, Dave's got one, so shout him.
Yeah, we will do that. No, cool card again. Like at least the colors lean into something that Affinity would be potentially playing in the modern world. But this is for the brews. This is for the brewers.
All manner.
Um, there's a couple we want to talk about at 5. You do have highlighted Fate of the Sun Crest, which is quite ultimately the for me, I look at this and go, this is the limited spell that we usually see, but there's a slight change and twist to it.
Up the beanstalk, baby. It is a 5-drop that isn't a 5-drop.
Exactly. So this is, and it's also like non-land permanent as well, right? So like
Yeah.
you don't just get to do target creature, you get to do anything that you need to.
Yeah, 3 mana kill a tap creature, 5 mana kill anything, trigger my beanstalk, continue going. We've seen Ride's End see quite a lot of play alongside Up the Beanstalk, sometimes even not alongside it, which is kind of wild. But it's just worth noting whenever there's one of these cards, for as long as that bloody enchantment is legal, you need to go, right, okay, this says 5 in the top right, 5 or more, and it doesn't actually cost that. It just needs to be noted.
It's a part of the when we do get round to finally doing the what you play in Pioneer flow chart, we do need to additionally add another box that says
Does it trigger Up the Beanstalk for less than 3 mana? Yeah.
and yeah, it's absolutely a consideration because this card is definitely not worth playing other than that because there would be better options for sure. And Like our final card, which at the moment in standard does have a better option to wipe the board for 5 mana. Um, in Sunfall, this card Ultima, destroy all artifacts and creatures, end the turn. In the medium term world of standard, is going to basically replace your Sunfall slot, but I think there's a certain planeswalker who is a problem if they cost 3 mana, who will potentially have a chance to make a lot make a lot with this card in the
Yeah, give
coming
me a
weeks.
reason to play. Give me a reason to play Quicken in Modern.
Yeah, like destroy all artifacts, end the turn, especially when you can have all sorceries be played. For instance, it's going to be
Yeah, the things to note about it are it removes all death triggers. So if you Ultima a Heartfire hero, even though it gets destroyed, it wipes the stack. So all the death triggers get cleared off,
yeah,
and there's basically no chance for them to go on, and the turn just ends. The thing I want to do with it is Teferi Time Raveler, which is the Planeswalker you were cryptically alluding to, and Quicken and that sort of thing, and just play an unplayable pile of a control deck. But against Boros Energy, untapping with 6 mana and going on your upkeep, Quicken Ultima, that that sounds like a serotonin boost that I desperately need.
yeah. This feels like they've rated it like it's going to be a staple. I feel like it's going to be perfect in particular decks. You can't be unhappy, I guess. As a more of a watcher than a player of the modern format, I will say is that we can never be sad if we give control a bit of a hand, because
Yeah, control's been kind of non-existent recently.
so if this leads to a little bit of a micro shift, all the better for it.
Yeah, I highly doubt it. I don't think a 5 mana wrath is where we want to be, where sometimes a 3 mana wrath's too slow.
Yeah,
But it it's just it's fun to see this space be explored where even though we've not talked about every card in the set, we've only talked about, well, 22 of them from this set. There's there's loads of other cards where you can just sit and scroll through Scryfall and imagine what you want to do with all of them, whether that be the Cloud, whether it's Sephiroth, whether it's some random uncommon that you've taken a liking to and you think, oh, I want to see what I can do with this one. They've just made really appealing cards, and the flavor is on point. The art is incredible. It's the things that made, I'm sure, a lot of us fall in love with Magic, where it's the art, it's the look of the cards, and then you get into the meat of it and you start reading them and go, oh, what can I do with this? Is Ancient Adamantoise what we all needed, where it's a 5-drop that redirects damage from you onto it? Like, that is cool.
absolutely. And we will probably both be the first to put our hands up here and say every set something comes out of the woodwork. Every set sometimes every set will turn on and go, oh yeah, holy shit, we should never have missed that. And I guess let
I
us
mean,
know.
Fable, like,
Yeah,
people missed Fable.
Fable, Ledger Shredder, people like
Oko.
these cards were nothing until they were something. So if you think you know what that card is, let us know in the comments and give us a little bit more of an indication of which way we should be looking coming into this new season. But Scott, we'll probably be back in a couple of weeks, basically to start looking at where has this set shaken out. One of the first places we all tend to look is we look at Yeoman 5, we look at Will Urker, we basically look straight at Fire Shoes in the face and say, feed us, please, daddy, as soon as the deck dumps start hitting on that first weekend. We, surprisingly for a change, don't actually have a major tournament right at the change of the set. So I feel like that's kind of like been got right this time.
Ooh.
They've ended RCQs. They've ended that world this weekend. We're recording right now on the as they hit the top 8 in Indianapolis. So we'll be back, and I guess we have some friends and knowledge of people who are format specialists. Let's try and get them on to talk about the post Final Fantasy world and what decks they've built. Thanks to all the new toys. I'd love to see some pauper perspectives with some of the job select stuff that is out there as well. But that is for another cast. Scott, we're gonna wrap this up. Do you want to shout out some socials before we go?
I have no social media. I resent it. However, I'm not going to shout out my eBay like some people do. I know that's going to become a recurring thing, but I do have a channel on YouTube. There are currently no videos on it. It's at 11Z's MTG or just 11Z's. At some point, I will get around to making some content on there, but
for now,
that's for another time.
For now, he's just my partner in crime. Check this out in the description if you're on YouTube. It will also be on Spotify. If you have found us there, and you are absolute legends, because that means you have literally searched Magic Constructed MTG on Spotify and found us in the search algorithm. So drop us a comment to let us know that, and we'll come find you with a Magic Online code for 120 play points. Till the next time, Scott, we didn't get our decks out. We certainly were ready to get them out on the table in future episodes. See you all for now. Thanks for listening.